They called her the shadow in the kitchen, invisible, worthless. A girl who carried silver trays and kept her eyes on the floor because looking up meant punishment. But when 23-year-old Alara Thornwood screamed, "He's still breathing," in the middle of the Vampire King's funeral, she stopped a royal assassination. In 3 days, she went from being treated like furniture to becoming the only keeper who could purify an 800-year curse. This is how she
We
proved
cannot
them wrong.
delay. Action is
23
required
years old,
now.
On what
237 years
On the
old,
grounds of survival.
one bite. 3 days that changed history. The clock in the Cathedral of Eternal Night struck 3 in the morning. The sound rolled through stone corridors like distant thunder. Alara Thornwood's hands trembled as she lifted another tray of crystal goblets filled with blood wine. Crimson liquid caught the candlelight. Beautiful. Terrible. She'd been awake for 19 hours. Her feet ached in the thin-soled shoes the servants were required to wear. Black wool uniform scratching against skin still damp from the kitchen steam. Hair pulled back so tight her scalp throbbed. But she didn't dare loosen it. Duchess Seraphine Ashford had once yanked a maid's braids so hard the girl's neck snapped. That was 3 months ago. The girl's name was buried with her body. Alara moved through the mourning nobles like a ghost. 500 of the most powerful vampires on the continent packed into the cathedral, and not one of them looked at her. She was furniture, a table with legs, a thing that held drinks. "More wine, creature." The voice sliced through her thoughts, sharp, cold. Alara turned. Duchess Seraphine Ashford stood there in midnight blue silk that probably cost more than Alara would earn in 10 years. 145 years old, but her face looked 30. Flawless pale skin, eyes like frozen emeralds. Beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. Alara poured. Her hand didn't shake. Her father had taught her that. Watch their hands. Watch their eyes. The body tells you what the mouth hides. Professor Marcus Thornwood had been dead for 5 years. Killed in the Great Purge when the king's brother decided human intellectuals were a threat to vampire supremacy. Alara had been 18, 2 semesters from graduating with honors in political history. Then her father was gone and she was scrubbing floors in the castle where his death warrant had been signed. "You're slow," Seraphine's lip curled. "Move faster or I'll have you replaced." "Yes, Your Grace." Alara stepped back. Too slow. Seraphine's hand shot out, fingers closing around Alara's wrist like an iron shackle. The Duchess pulled her close, breath cold against Alara's ear. "You reek of garlic and sweat. Disgusting. Stand downwind or I'll have the head cook throw you in the furnace with the morning's garbage." She shoved. Alara stumbled. The tray tilted. Wine sloshed but didn't spill. Years of practice kept her hand steady even as her knee cracked against marble. Pain flared hot and immediate. No one helped her up. 500 vampires watching a human girl on her knees, and they looked through her like she was smoke. Alara stood, smoothed her uniform, walked back toward the kitchen with her head high and her jaw clenched so tight her teeth ached. She was observing, and she was seeing something the nobles missed. The cathedral was wrong, not the Gothic architecture or the stained glass windows depicting the first vampire king's rise, not the obsidian altar or the thousands of black candles burning with flames that never flickered. The body. King Dorian Shadowmere lay in a glass coffin at the center of the dais. 237 years old, ruler of the Northern Territories, the scourge of the Badlands, the man who had stopped the Great Purge when he returned from war and found his brother had slaughtered 3,000 human scholars. Too late for most, but he'd stopped it. Alara had read the decree herself, found it in the castle archives when she was supposed to be dusting. King Dorian's handwriting was harsh, angular. The words were not. "No more. The blood of the innocent stains us all. Let it end." And it had. The purge stopped. The surviving humans were given papers, protection, a chance to breathe. Now he was dead. Official story, a rogue werewolf pack on the northern border. Dorian had been leading a patrol. The wolves had silver-tipped claws. Even a vampire king couldn't survive that much silver in the bloodstream. His body had been returned 3 days ago. The royal physicians pronounced him dead. Prince Kael Shadowmere, the king's younger brother, had wept publicly. Ordered a state funeral. Nobles from across the continent descended like crows to a carcass. Tomorrow, after the final rites, Kael would be crowned. The kingdom would have a new king. But something was wrong. Alara had been in the cathedral since midnight, serving wine, clearing glasses, invisible. She'd watched the nobles parade past the coffin, watched them bow, watched the high priestess Morgana Night Whisper chant the old words in a language that made Alara's bones ache. Morgana was 800 years old. She looked 60, silver hair in elaborate braids, robes of deep purple embroidered with symbols that seemed to move in the candlelight. Her eyes were black from edge to edge, no white, no iris, just darkness. Those eyes had found Alara twice tonight, lingered, assessing. It made Alara's skin crawl. Thunder rumbled outside. The storm had been building for hours. Rain hammered against the stained glass, turning the colored light fractured and strange. Alara circled back toward the dais. She shouldn't. Her shift in the viewing room was over. She should return to the kitchens, help with the breakfast preparation, stay out of sight. But her father's voice whispered in her mind, "If something feels wrong, Alara, it usually is. Trust your eyes." She moved along the wall, keeping to the shadows between the pillars, closer to the coffin, closer to the truth that itched at the back of her mind like a splinter she couldn't reach. The coffin was beautiful, glass and lead, reinforced with silver at the corners. Dorian lay inside wearing his military dress uniform, high collar embroidered with silver thread, hands folded across his chest, hair black as midnight, swept back from a face that looked carved from marble. Even in death, he was terrifying, but also human. There was a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, a tiny imperfection that made him real, made him more than the monster from bedtime stories. Lightning flashed. Blinding white light flooded the cathedral for one frozen second. Alara saw it. On the underside of the glass lid, directly above the king's mouth, there was condensation. A patch of fog no larger than a coin, faint, barely visible. Then darkness returned, candles flickering, thunder rolling like drums. Alara's heart stopped. Condensation meant moisture. Moisture meant breath. Breath meant impossible, she whispered. Vampires didn't breathe, not like humans. They didn't need air unless they were healing, unless they were actively regenerating tissue, unless they were alive. Her father's words again, from a lecture she'd attended when she was 15. Political history included biology. Professor Thornwood believed in understanding the enemy. A vampire in torpor appears dead, heart stopped, lungs still. But the body is not gone. It's waiting, healing. If buried before the healing completes, the vampire wakes in the dark, trapped. The mind breaks first. Alara looked at the coffin lid, heavy, sealed with iron clasps. If they closed it, if they buried him, he would wake up in a tomb. Begin the final sealing. High Priestess Morgana's voice cut through the organ music. The crowd fell silent. 4 guards in ceremonial armor moved toward the coffin. Each one gripped a corner of the lid, muscles tensed, ready to lift. Once that lid was on, it would be locked, sealed with holy wax and silver wire. Then the entire coffin would be lowered into the royal crypt beneath the cathedral. Dorian Shadowmere would be buried alive. Alara's hands clenched. She wasn't brave. She'd spent 5 years invisible, swallowing insults, keeping her head down. Survival meant silence. But her father hadn't been silent. He'd spoken truth even when it cost him everything. When you see injustice, Alara, speak, even if your voice shakes. Her voice was shaking. The guards lifted the lid. Stop. The word came out quiet, barely audible over the storm. No one heard. The lid rose higher, 6 inches, a foot. Alara grabbed the silver tray she'd been carrying, empty now, heavy. She raised it above her head and threw it as hard as she could. It hit the marble floor with a sound like a church bell exploding. The entire cathedral froze. 500 pale faces turned. Alara stepped over the velvet rope, separating the servants from the nobles. Stop, she said again, louder. Her heart hammered so hard she could taste copper. He's not dead. Silence. Absolute. Heavy. Then Duchess Seraphine laughed, high and cruel. The servant girl has gone mad. Remove her. 2 guards dropped the coffin lid and grabbed Alara's arms. Fingers dug into her biceps hard enough to bruise. I saw breath on the glass, Alara said. Her voice cracked, but she forced it steady. Condensation. He's breathing. He's healing. If you bury him now, he'll wake up in the dark. Ridiculous. Seraphine's smile was all teeth. The royal physicians confirmed death. You're a kitchen rat who can't tell a corpse from a sleeping drunkard. Look at the glass, Alara shouted. Desperation made her bold. Stupid. Just look. Lightning struck again. The cathedral lit up like midday, and in that flash of light, everyone saw it. The small patch of fog on the glass, right above Dorian's mouth. Thunder crashed. The sound shook the floor. Then from inside the coffin came another sound. Dull, heavy, thump, a fist, striking glass from the inside. The guards stumbled back. The crowd gasped. Morgana's black eyes went wide. Thump, thump, thump. The glass cracked, a spider web fracture spreading from the center. Then a hand, pale, scarred, trembling. It slammed against the glass so hard the entire coffin shook. King Dorian Shadowmere's eyes opened. They weren't the serene, closed eyes of a corpse. They were one, desperate. The irises burned blood red. Feral, he was suffocating. Disoriented. Trapped. Gods above, Captain Cassandra Ironclaw breathed. The head of the royal guard, 180 years old, drew her sword, not to attack, to defend. Her face had gone white. Prince Kale pushed through the crowd, his handsome features twisted with something Alara couldn't quite read. Shock, fear, or panic. He's turned ghoul, Ghoul, Kale shouted. The poison corrupted him. He'll slaughter everyone in this room. Kill him now before he breaks free. No, Alara screamed. She wrenched free from one guard. Her hand found the latch on the coffin. Cold metal, simple mechanism. She threw it. The pressure from inside did the rest. The glass lid exploded outward. Shards flew like daggers. Alara threw her arms over her face. Pain sliced across her forearms. Warm blood. Her blood. When she lowered her arms, Dorian Shadowmere was sitting up. Glass slid from his uniform. He gasped. A terrible, ragged sound, like air rushing into a vacuum. His chest heaved. Veins stood out black against his throat. He looked around, wild, disoriented, searching. His gaze landed on Alara. She was the only one standing within 10 feet of the coffin. Everyone else had scattered. He moved. Vampire speed was not something human eyes could track. One moment Dorian was in the coffin. The next he had Alara pinned to the marble steps of the dais. His weight crushed the air from her lungs. Hands clamped onto her shoulders. Bruising, shaking. His face was inches from hers. Fangs descended, long, sharp, gleaming in the candlelight. He was starving. She could smell the decay of poison sweating through his pores, mixing with ozone and old blood. The entire cathedral screamed. Alara stared up into the face of death. Red eyes, black veins spider-webbing across pale skin, fangs that could tear her throat open before she even felt the pain. But he didn't bite, he hovered, chest heaving, pupils blown so wide they swallowed the red. His whole body trembled violently. Wait, he rasped. His voice sounded like grinding stone. Unused, desperate. Wait, Your Majesty, Cassandra's voice rang out, commanding, careful. Stand down. Everyone stand down. Swords lowered, slowly. Dorian looked at Alara, really looked, confusion cutting through the feral haze in his eyes. You, he whispered. You screamed. I did, Alara managed. Her voice came out small, terrified, but she didn't look away. You were breathing. His eyes narrowed. He looked past her, at the coffin, the broken glass, the watching crowd. Realization hit. She saw it in the way his body went rigid, the way his jaw clenched. The funeral, the coffin, the betrayal. He tried to stand, his legs buckled. The poison was still in his system, eating his motor functions. He collapsed. His head landed on Alara's shoulder. Get him off her, someone shouted. No, Cassandra snapped. Touch him and he'll kill you. He's in defensive mode. His instincts are pure survival. If you pull him, he snaps. Dorian's breath was hot against Alara's neck, right over her pulse. Every beat of her heart was a drumbeat calling to him. She could feel the hunger radiating off him, the desperate need. He needs blood, Morgana said. The high priestess stepped forward. Her black eyes gleamed. He's starving. If he feeds on the girl, he will kill her. Let him. It will prove he is a monster unfit to rule. You'd let him murder a girl to make a political point? Cassandra's hand tightened on her sword. She's a servant, expendable. The word hit Alara like a slap, expendable. All her life, that's what she'd been. To Seraphine, to the nobles, to everyone who looked through her like glass. But her father hadn't thought she was expendable. And this man, this vampire king who had stopped a purge, who had written, the blood of the innocent stains us all, he wouldn't want to wake up with her blood on his hands. Dorian groaned against her neck, a sound of pure agony. Help me up, he gritted out. The words were meant only for her. Alara's mind raced. She was a waitress. She made pennies serving wine to people who kicked her. This was a king who could accidentally kill her just by losing control. But she remembered the condensation on the glass, the desperate fist striking from inside. She remembered her father's voice. Okay, she whispered. She wrapped her arms around his torso. It was like hugging a statue. Cold, hard, but she felt the faint flutter of his heart struggling to restart. On three. 1, 2, 3. She heaved. Dorian pushed with her. They stood together, swaying dangerously. Elara became his crutch, her small frame straining under his weight. He was easily 6'3", solid muscle despite the poison eating him from the inside. Everyone back, Cassandra commanded. She formed a protective circle with her most loyal guards. Swords out, not against Dorian, against anyone who tried to interfere. Prince Kale stepped forward. His face had gone from panic to cold fury. Arrest them, he said. The girl is a witch. She's necromanced a corpse. This is dark magic. Heresy. He is the king, Cassandra roared. Her voice echoed off the vaulted ceiling. And he is awake. By the laws of blood, the succession is void. He is compromised, Kale shot back. Look at him. He can barely stand. The poison has rotted his mind. The only rot here is your ambition, Cassandra snarled. Dorian lifted his head. It took visible effort. He looked at Kale, his younger brother, the man who should have been celebrating a miracle. Instead, Kale looked terrified, guilty. Take me to the tower, Dorian said to Elara. His voice was stronger now, still rough but gaining power. Cassandra, Dorian said. The captain snapped to attention. Sire, clear the hall. She didn't hesitate. Form ranks, escort the king to the royal wing. Anyone who blocks the path is a traitor to the crown and will be executed instantly. The room erupted, nobles shouting, some pledging loyalty, others backing toward exits, loyalties fractured in real time. But the sight of the resurrected king leaning on a waitress in a stained uniform was enough to make the majority hesitate. They moved. Elara, half carrying the most powerful predator in the kingdom, walked down the center aisle to Wimpon. She could feel the heat radiating off him, fever hot, the poison fighting the regeneration. He was smelling her hair, her skin, the pulse hammering in her throat. It was terrifying, but he kept his jaw clenched, fighting the hunger with everything he had. Don't let me fall, he murmured. I've got you, Elara said, and she meant it. They passed Kale. The brothers locked eyes. Kale's face was a mask of barely controlled rage. His hand drifted toward the ceremonial dagger at his belt. This isn't over, Dorian, he whispered. Dorian didn't speak. He just bared his fangs in a smile that was all promise and no joy. They reached the heavy oak doors of the vestry. As they passed through, Seraphine hissed something Elara couldn't quite hear. But she caught the Duchess's eyes, and for the first time in 5 years, Elara smiled, small, quiet, victorious. The royal wing was a fortress within the fortress. Once the iron door slammed shut, the noise of the cathedral faded to a dull roar. They brought Dorian to the solar, a massive room filled with maps, weapons, and a roaring fireplace. Dr. Marcus Grayson, the royal physician, immediately began barking orders at servants to bring blood packs and warming blankets. Elara tried to step away once they reached the velvet chaise. Dorian's hand closed around her wrist, not hard, not threatening, just holding. Sire, please, Dr. Grayson said gently. Let the girl go. We need to stabilize you. No, Dorian said. His eyes were closed, head thrown back against the cushions. She stays. She's a civilian, Cassandra argued. She was pacing, restless. We need to secure the perimeter. Kale has half the council in his pocket. He'll claim you're mentally unstable and try to invoke the Regency Act. He tried to bury me alive, Dorian said. Each word was slow, painful. He opened his eyes and looked at Elara. You saw the breath? Yes. Why? Elara blinked. Why what? Why did you look? Everyone else saw a corpse. You saw a man. She thought about that, about 5 years of being invisible, about learning to observe because survival depended on seeing what others missed. I have good eyes, she said, and I didn't want you to die. You don't even know me. I know you tip the service staff well at the winter solstice banquets, she said. And I know your brother kicks dogs when he thinks no one is watching. I serve his table often. You don't. A dry, raspy chuckle escaped Dorian's lips. He does. He really does. Then his entire body arched. A hiss of pain ripped from his throat. His veins turned black, visible through his pale skin like cracks in porcelain. The withering poison is spiking, Dr. Grayson said, panic rising in his voice. The adrenaline is wearing off. His heart is stopping again. I need O-negative immediately. Where are the blood packs? A servant stumbled in, trembling. The stores were emptied for the funeral feast, doctor. Cassandra cursed, viciously. Kale, he drained the reserve so you couldn't heal if you did wake up. Dorian began to convulse. His grip on the chaise tore the fabric, muscles locking, eyes rolling back. He was dying, for real this time. Dr. Grayson looked at Cassandra, then at Alara. We don't have time to source a donor, he said grimly. He needs fresh blood now, or he slips back into torpor and we never wake him up. All eyes turned to Alara. She backed up until she hit a bookshelf. No, she said, absolutely not. I'm just the waitress. I'm the whistleblower. I'm not the lunch. Girl, Cassandra stepped forward. Her face was hard, desperate. I can order you. No orders, Dorian gasped. He was shaking violently now, teeth chattering. Let her leave. Alara looked at him, at this man choosing to die rather than force her. She looked at the door. She could run, disappear into the rain, go back to her tiny room in the servants' quarters. Pretend this never happened, but Kael would hunt her down. She'd humiliated him in front of 500 witnesses. She was a loose end. Her only safety was this man, this dying man who had stopped a purge. Who tipped waitresses? Who wouldn't force her even as poison ate him alive? Alara took a deep breath. She unbuttoned the cuff of her left sleeve and rolled it up. Do I get a raise? She asked. Her voice trembled. Dr. Grayson's shoulders sagged with relief. Name your price, my dear. Hazard pay and protection. She walked to the chaise. Dorian looked at her arm, then at her face. The hunger in his eyes was terrifying, a raw, primal force that made her knees weak. I might not be able to stop, he said. Then Cassandra will stop you. Alara looked at the captain. Cassandra nodded, hand on her sword hilt. I will. Alara sat on the edge of the chaise, extended her wrist. Dorian didn't grab. He took her hand gently, almost reverently. His skin was ice cold. Hers was warm. He brought her wrist to his mouth. I'm sorry, he whispered against her skin. Then he bit. The pain was sharp, immediate, shocking. Alara gasped, gripping the back of the chaise with her free hand. But as he drank, the pain dulled into a strange, numbing pressure. Her head went light. The room tilted. She watched him. Color returned to his face instantly. The gray pallor vanished, replaced by a flush of life. The black veins receded. His hair seemed to shine darker. He was drinking deep. Desperate gulps. That's enough, sire, Dr. Grayson warned. Dorian growled, low in his throat, a warning sound. He tightened his grip on her wrist. Dorian, Cassandra barked. Alara felt the edges of her vision blur. Too much. He was taking too much. She didn't panic. Instead, she did something insane. She put her free hand on the back of his head. His hair was soft, silky. She tugged gently. Okay, she whispered. Okay, big guy, that's enough. Miraculously, he pulled away. He gasped. Blood stained his lips, his chest heaving. He looked drunk, powerful, terrifyingly alive. He licked a drop of blood from his lip. His eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her toes curl. Alara, he said. It was the first time he'd used her name. His voice was no longer raspy. It was deep, rich, commanding. Dr. Grayson rushed in with bandages. You did remarkably well, Miss Thornwood. Remarkably. Dorian stood. This time he didn't sway. He moved like a predator. Fluid, dangerous. The power in the room shifted instantly. The air felt heavier, charged with static. Cassandra, Dorian said, sire. Seal the castle. No one leaves, no one enters. And Kale? Dorian's smile was cold, sharp. Let him run. Let him think he's escaped. The hunt is better when the prey has a head start. He turned to Alara. She was sitting on the chaise holding a juice box Dr. Grayson had shoved into her hands. She felt pale, small, drained. Dorian knelt. The king of the Northern Territories, the scourge of the Badlands, went down on one knee before Waitress. He took her bandaged hand. You saved me, he said, with your voice, with your blood. I just didn't want the funeral to be boring, she joked weakly. Dorian didn't smile. He looked at her with a terrifying solemnity. You are under my protection now, Alara Thornwood. You are no longer a servant of this court. What am I then? You are the keeper of the king's life, he declared, and tonight we have a kingdom to reconquer. He stood, offered his hand. It was stained with her blood. Alara looked at that hand, then at the door where chaos waited. She took it. Lead the way. The council chamber smelled like old blood and older power. 12 vampires sat around a circular obsidian table. Each one had survived centuries by being smarter, crueler, or luckier than everyone they'd ever met. Their eyes tracked Alara like wolves watching a lamb walk into their den. She kept her chin up. Her father had taught her that too. Never let them see you afraid. Fear is permission. Dorian sat at the head of the table in a high-backed chair that looked more like a throne. He'd changed out of his funeral uniform into black combat gear. Practical, dangerous. His color had fully returned. The withering poison was still in his system, but her blood had bought him time. She could feel him, a connection between them, a low hum in the back of her skull, the blood bond. This is absurd. Duke Theron Blackwater slammed his fist on the table. He was 300 years old and looked 40. Sharp features, silver hair pulled back in a tail. You bring a human servant to a council meeting? Have you lost your mind, Dorian? Mind your tongue, Cassandra said from her position behind Dorian's chair. Or lose it. She saved my life, Dorian said. His voice was calm, controlled, but Alara heard the steel underneath. That earns her a seat at this table. She's a waitress, Seraphine hissed from across the room. The Duchess had been arrested but not yet formally charged. She sat in the corner under guard, her silk gown torn at the shoulder. Humiliation burned in her eyes. She carries trays. She knows nothing of governance. She knows more than you think, Dorian said. He gestured to Alara. Tell them what you told me. Alara's hands were shaking. She clasped them together under the table. 300 years of collective predatory experience stared at her. She thought of her father, standing in front of lecture halls, teaching truth to people who didn't want to hear it. The castle's financial records for the past 6 months show irregularities, she said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. 50,000 sovereigns disappeared from the royal treasury, marked as funeral expenses, but funeral expenses are itemized separately. The money vanished 3 days before the king was poisoned. Silence. I worked in accounting before I was reassigned to the kitchens, Alara continued. I know the books, I know the patterns, and I know that Prince Kael received an anonymous donation of exactly 50,000 sovereigns the same week. More silence. Then Duke Theron laughed. Bitter. Ugly. The boy bought his coup, and we missed it. Not all of us missed it, Dorian said quietly. He looked at Seraphine. You've been Kael's lover for 2 years. Don't bother denying it. The servants talk. And now Miss Thornwood listens. Seraphine's face went white, then red, then white again. You have no proof. Your chambers connect to his through a hidden passage, Alara said. I found it 6 months ago when I was cleaning. You think we don't notice the wine glasses? The second pillow? Seraphine lunged, vampire speed, claws extended. She made it 3 feet before Cassandra's blade pressed against her throat. Move again, Cassandra said softly, and I'll show everyone what color your insides are. Dorian stood. The room fell silent. Duchess Seraphine Ashford, you are charged with conspiracy, treason, and accessory to attempted regicide. You will be held in the tower until trial. This is madness, Seraphine spat. You're taking the word of a human over mine. I am nobility. She is nothing. She is alive, Dorian said. In this castle, that's a rare privilege. Take her away. Guards dragged Seraphine from the room. She screamed, cursed, promised vengeance. The door slammed. Her voice faded. Dorian turned to the council. Kael has fled. He took the West Garrison with him, approximately 200 soldiers. He will try to starve us out, cut supply lines, force surrender. We have reserves, Duke Theron said. No, Dorian's voice was flat. The blood bank was drained. The grain stores were contaminated 3 days ago. Slow-acting poison. We didn't notice because we were preparing for a funeral. Not a siege. The council erupted, voices overlapping, panic barely controlled. Through the bond, Alara felt Dorian's pain spike. He was hiding it well, but she knew. She stood. The greenhouse. Everyone turned. The hydroponic gardens in the East Wing, Alara said. They grow synthetic hemoglobin for the vegetarian faction. Prince Kael always mocked them, called them useless. He wouldn't have destroyed something he thought was worthless. Dorian looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. Respect. Warmth. Can we refine the output? If we increase production and supplement with human volunteers, we could keep the castle fed for weeks. Synthetic blood is swill, another counselor muttered. It keeps you alive but grants no power. Survival first, Dorian said. Power later. Cassandra, secure the greenhouses. Miss Thornwood will supervise the harvest. Me, Alara's voice cracked. You're the only one here who knows what labor looks like, Dorian said. Not mocking, matter of fact. You've worked every job in this castle. You know the systems. You know the people. He was right, she did. Then I need access to the staff, she said, and I need the council to stop treating them like furniture. We're going to need their help. Duke Theron raised an eyebrow. The human is giving us orders now? The human is keeping you alive, Dorian said. I suggest you listen. The ravens came with the sunrise. Alara was in the greenhouse when she heard the screaming. She ran to the window, looked up. The sky was black, not with clouds, with birds. Thousands of them, ravens the size of hawks. They fell like hail, hitting the courtyards, the walls, the gardens, dead before they landed. Get back, someone shouted. Too late. The first bird hit the glass ceiling of the greenhouse, cracked it, didn't break through, then 100 more. Glass shattered, rained down in deadly shards. Alara dove under a grow table. Metal and leaves protected her from the worst of it. People screamed, ran, bled. The ravens kept falling, and where they landed, green mist rose. Faint at first, then thicker, choking, poison. Withering curse, someone coughed. Airborne, get to sealed rooms. Alara crawled out from under the table. Her hands were cut, glass in her palms. She ignored it. Everyone to the main greenhouse chamber, she shouted. The filtration system is independent. Move. Now. She didn't wait to see if they followed. She ran. The control room was on the lower level, down 2 flights of stairs, through corridors filling with green fog. She held her breath, eyes watering, lungs burning. The door. There. Heavy steel. She grabbed the handle, pulled, locked. Of course it was locked. Security measure. She slammed her fist against the keypad. Numbers. She needed numbers. Her father's birthday. She tried it. Access denied. Her birthday. Access denied. The fog was getting thicker. She could taste copper. Her vision blurred. Think, think. Her father's voice, clear as if he were standing next to her. She typed OBSERV. The keypad beeped. Green light. The door opened. Alara fell inside, slammed it shut, gulped clean air. The control room was small, banks of computers, pipes, gauges, and in the center a filtration system that could scrub air for the entire East Wing. She activated it. Fans roared to life. Pressure equalized. Outside the door, she heard people pounding, coughing, dying. She opened the door, pulled them in. 20 people, servants, guards, one counselor. They collapsed, coughing, wheezing, alive. Seal the wing, Alara ordered. Activate emergency protocols. A technician stumbled to the console, started typing. Blast doors throughout the East Wing slammed shut, cutting off the poisoned air. 300 people trapped inside. Safe. The rest of the castle was not so lucky. Alara leaned against the wall, slid down. Her hands were bleeding, glass still embedded in her palms. She didn't care. She'd saved 300 lives. Maybe, if the filtration held, if Kael didn't have another attack planned, if they could survive long enough for Dorian to... Pain, sharp, sudden, through the bond. Dorian was hurt, angry, searching for her. She closed her eyes, focused, sent back through the connection. I'm alive. East Wing. The pain eased, replaced by relief so intense it made her dizzy. Then his presence in her mind. Stay there. Safe. She almost laughed, as if anywhere was safe now. The technician approached. Young, maybe 16. Human like her. Miss, there's something you should see. He led her to a panel in the corner, hidden behind pipes. She wouldn't have noticed it if he hadn't pointed it out. He pressed a sequence of buttons. The panel slid open. Inside was a compartment, and inside the compartment was a leather journal. Alara's hands shook as she reached for it. The cover was worn, familiar. She knew it before she even opened it. Her father's handwriting. For Alara, when she's ready to see. Her throat closed. Tears blurred her vision. She opened the journal. The first page was dated 5 years ago, a week before his death. My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, I am gone, and you have found your way to the one place I could hide the truth. I pray you find it in time. Her hands trembled. She turned the page. You are not what they think you are. Your mother was human. This is true. But her grandmother was not. Her grandmother was Keeper-born, descended from the sister of Queen Moira Shadowmere, the first vampire queen, the woman who made the pact that created the bloodline. Alara's breath caught. Keeper blood is rare. It appears once every few generations, always in women, always hidden, because keepers have power that vampires fear, The power to purify, to heal, to break curses. The room spun. High Priestess Morgana knows this. She has spent 800 years hunting keeper bloodlines, eliminating them. I discovered records in the cathedral archives. 47 keepers murdered over the centuries, all made to look like accidents, illness, suicide. No, she found out I knew. She sent assassins. They made it look like the purge, but it was her. It was always her. Alara's vision blurred. Tears fell onto the page, smearing ink. You are keeper-born, my brilliant girl, and you are in terrible danger. If Morgana discovers what you are, she will kill you, as she killed your great-great-grandmother, as she killed every keeper before you. The journal fell from her hands. Her father, murdered, not by political violence, by a woman who feared what Alara might become. The door burst open. Cassandra stood there, blood on her armor, sword drawn. We need you. The council is demanding proof. Proof of what? That you're more than human. Cassandra's eyes were hard, tired. They don't believe Dorian. They think you've enchanted him somehow. They want you to prove you're keeper-born. How? The crypts. Only keeper blood can enter the crypt of First Kings without triggering the wards. If you're what Dorian says, you'll survive. If you're not, I'll die, Cassandra nodded. It's a death sentence for anyone else. Dorian is fighting them, but half the council has turned. They're using the siege as leverage. Prove yourself or they won't support his rule. Alara picked up the journal, clutched it to her chest. Her father's last words, his last gift. Take me to the crypts. The entrance to the crypt of First Kings was behind the cathedral. Down, always down. Stone steps worn smooth by centuries. Torches that burned with cold blue flame. The air grew colder with each step, until Alara could see her breath. Dorian walked beside her, silent, furious. You don't have to do this, he said for the third time. Yes, I do. I can order them to accept my word. And they'll resent it, question it, use it against you later. Alara looked at him. I read my father's journal. I know what I am. I just need to prove it. The wards were designed to kill, Dorian said. His voice was rough, scared. They burn anyone with vampire blood, but they also burn anyone with malicious intent. If you go in there afraid, angry, vengeful, I'm not vengeful. Liar, she smiled, small, sad. Okay, maybe a little vengeful, but I'm more curious than angry. That counts for something. They reached the bottom, a corridor of rough-hewn stone, narrow, claustrophobic. At the end was a door, solid obsidian, covered in runes that seemed to move in the torchlight. Dorian stopped, pressed his hand against the wall, hissed. His palm blistered, blackened. He pulled back. The wards recognize me as vampire, he said. I can't go further. You have to go alone. What if you're not keeper-born, you'll burn, from the inside out. It takes approximately 30 seconds. Feels like 30 years. Alara swallowed. Encouraging. Don't die, Dorian said. He grabbed her shoulders, looked into her eyes. Please don't die. The fear in his voice was raw, real. She reached up, touched his cheek. I'll try. She turned, walked toward the door. Behind her, Dorian whispered, Alara. She looked back. I'm sorry, he said, for everything my family took from you. She nodded, didn't trust her voice. Then she pushed the door open. Heat, immediate, overwhelming. Like walking into a furnace, Alara gasped, stumbled. The door slammed shut behind her. The corridor beyond was lined with stone sarcophagi, each one carved with names she couldn't read. The air shimmered with power, ancient, angry. She took a step, her skin prickled. Uncomfortable, but not painful. Another step. The prickling intensified. Like static electricity. Her hair stood on end. Third step. Burning, just under her skin. She gritted her teeth, kept walking. Fourth step. The pain spiked. She fell to her knees, gasping. I'm not here to harm, she said aloud. I'm here to learn. The burning eased, slightly. She stood, kept walking. At the end of the corridor was a chamber, circular, massive. In the center stood a statue of a woman, beautiful, stern, holding a bowl of flame. But the flame wasn't orange, it was green, sick, pulsing. And standing next to the statue was Morgana. The high priestess smiled. Hello, child. Alara's blood turned to ice. How did you, the wards, don't affect me, Morgana finished. She circled the statue, her black eyes gleaming. Because I am the wards. I created them. 800 years ago when I became the first queen. You're Moira Shadowmere. I was. Morgana touched the bowl. The green flame flickered. I made a pact, traded my mortality for power, saved my people from plague, birthed the vampire bloodline. She looked at Alara, tilted her head, and I've spent 8 centuries maintaining that power. Do you know how, child? Alara backed up, hit the wall. Keepers. Smart girl. Morgana's smile widened. The pact requires renewal. Every 800 years. Blood of the keeper. Freely given or forcefully taken. It doesn't matter. As long as the blood flows, the curse continues. My father found out. Your father was brilliant, nosy, inconvenient. Morgana shrugged. I had him killed, made it look like Kael's purge. No one questioned it. Rage, hot and immediate. Alara lunged. Morgana flicked her wrist. Invisible force slammed Alara against the wall. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. You have fire, Morgana said. I like that, but fire alone won't save you. She approached, pulled a vial from her robes, filled with black liquid. This is the corrupted blood from the source, the original pact. Drink it and you become the sacrifice. Your death renews the curse. Your power becomes mine. I stay young, strong, immortal. No, you don't have a choice. Morgana grabbed Alara's jaw, forced it open, poured the vial down her throat. Alara choked, gagged. The liquid burned like acid. She felt it spreading through her veins. Black, cold, corrupting, her vision blurred. She saw things, horrible things. Dorian, feral, eyes gone white, tearing through innocence. Cassandra, turning to stone, the kingdom ash. No, she gasped. No, there has to be another way. There isn't. Morgana stepped back, watched. In 30 seconds, your heart will stop. Your blood will crystallize. And I will harvest your power like I have 47 times before. Alara collapsed, her body convulsing, the poison eating her from inside. She was going to die, just like her father, just like all the keepers before her. Footsteps, someone else in the chamber. Through blurred vision, she saw him. Kael, but wrong. His eyes were vacant, glowing faint green, moving like a puppet. He stood beside Morgana, silent. My prince is a useful tool, Morgana said. Blood-cursed, enslaved. He does what I command. He poisoned his brother. He started the siege. He's been my instrument for 2 years. Kael's mouth moved. The words came out broken. Wrong. Run. She controls. He was fighting, trying to warn her. Alara's vision darkened. 30 seconds. 20. 10. Her father's voice. Magic follows rules, Alara. Find the loophole. Loophole. She forced her eyes open, looked at the statue, the bowl, the inscriptions carved into the base, old language. But she'd seen it before, in her father's research. Blood freely given renews. Blood forcefully taken corrupts. Freely given. Morgana had forced her. That meant the blood wouldn't work. The sacrifice had to be willing. Alara laughed, bitter, choking. You made a mistake. Morgana frowned. What? The pact. It requires consent. You forced me. I didn't choose. Understanding flashed across Morgana's face. Then fury. No, no! I've done this 47 times. And how many times did it fail? Alara gasped. She dragged herself toward the statue. How many times did you have to force them? How many keepers rejected you? Morgana's silence was answer enough. Alara reached the bowl. The green flame was dying, sputtering, because the corruption couldn't take root without consent. I give freely, Alara whispered. She bit her palm. Blood welled. She pressed it to the bowl. Not my life, my choice. I choose to heal, not to die. Light, golden, blinding. It exploded from the bowl, raced through the chamber. The green corruption burned away, screaming, fighting, losing. Morgana shrieked, What have you done? Found the loophole, Alara said. The golden light consumed the black poison in her veins, burned it away. She gasped. Her heart restarted, strong, clear. The wards around the chamber flared, not to kill, to protect. Morgana was thrown back. She hit the wall, blood on her lips. You little... Kael collapsed. The green glow in his eyes faded. He blinked, confused, free. The golden light from the bowl coalesced, formed a shape. A woman. Queen Moira Shadowmere. Not Morgana, the real queen. The one who had made the pact 800 years ago. her spirit, preserved in the flame. She looked at Morgana, sadness in her translucent eyes. "Sister," she said, "what have you become?" Morgana's face twisted. "I am you. I took your place when you died. I've ruled for centuries." "I didn't die," Moira said softly. "You killed me 3 days after I made the pact. You wanted my power, my throne. I deserved it. And so you murdered me, took my face, my name, spent 800 years feeding on Keeper blood to maintain the lie." Moira turned to Alara. "Child, you found the truth. The pact was never meant to require death. It required partnership, sharing, the vampire and the Keeper in balance." She reached out. Her spirit hand touched Alara's forehead. Warmth, knowledge, understanding. The pact, the curse, the way it was supposed to work. Alara gasped. "Saw it all. I can fix this," she whispered. "Yes," Moira said, "you can, but not tonight. She's too strong. You're too new." Morgana lunged, but the golden light held her back. "I will destroy you," she hissed at Alara. "I will hunt you. I will—" "Run," Moira commanded. The wards flared brighter. Morgana screamed, dissolved into shadow. Fled. Kale groaned, sat up, blood on his face. What happened?" Alara stumbled over, helped him stand. "You were enslaved by her. It wasn't your fault. Dorian, I tried to kill—" "I know, we'll explain. Come on." She dragged him toward the door. Moira's spirit faded. "Thank you," Alara whispered. "Save them," Moira said. "Save my children. End the corruption." Then she was gone. Alara burst through the door. Dorian was there, waiting, pacing. He saw her, alive. Blood on her hands, but alive. He pulled her into his arms, crushing, desperate. "I felt you die," he whispered. "Through the bond. I felt it. I came back," she said into his chest. "Don't ever do that again." No promises. He pulled back, saw Kyle. His expression hardened. "Brother." "He was enslaved," Alara said quickly. "Morgana. She's not Moira. She killed Moira 800 years ago, stole her identity. She's been feeding on Keepers ever since." Dorian looked at his brother, at the guilt and confusion in Kale's eyes. "Is this true?" Kale nodded, tears on his face. "I couldn't stop her. She controlled me, made me poison you, made me—" His voice broke. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Dorian was silent for a long moment. Then he grabbed Kale, pulled him into an embrace. "We'll fix this," he said, "together." Alara watched them, brothers, reunited. But her mind was racing. Morgana was wounded, weak, but not dead, and she would come back. With everything she had, the real war was just beginning. The castle was dying. Alara could feel it. In the stones, in the air. In the way shadows moved wrong in the corners. 3 days since the funeral. 3 days since she'd screamed and changed everything. Now she stood in the war room with maps spread across the table. Red marks showing where Morgana's corruption had spread. Black marks where people had fallen. Too many black marks. Dorian hadn't slept. Neither had she. The blood bond kept them connected. When he hurt, she felt it. When she was afraid, he knew. Right now, they were both terrified. "She's gathering power," Kale said. He looked hollow. 3 days free of Morgana's control, and he still flinched at shadows. "I can feel it, like an echo in my skull. She's preparing something big." "The siege failed," Cassandra said. She was cleaning her sword. Again, nervous habit. "The biological attack failed. She's desperate." "Desperate makes her dangerous," Dorian said. He looked at Alara. Their eyes met across the table. "She wants you," he said quietly. "Your blood, your power. She'll come for you." "Let her." Alara's voice was steadier than she felt. "We'll be ready." "Will we?" Duke Theron asked. He'd switched sides after the crypt revelation. Smart man. "She's 800 years old. She's been harvesting Keeper power for centuries. What do we have?" "We have the truth," Alara said, "and we have each other." Thunder rolled outside. The storm had never stopped. 3 days of rain and wind and lightning that felt wrong, magical. Morgana's doing. The castle shook. Not from thunder, from something else. Everyone froze. "What was that?" someone whispered. The floor trembled again. Harder. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cassandra ran to the window, looked out. Her face went white. "Gods above." Dorian was there in a heartbeat. He looked, cursed. Alara joined them. The courtyard below was filling with bones, not skeletons, just bones. Thousands of them. Rising from the earth like plants, clicking together, forming shapes, warriors, creatures, monsters. And standing in the center of the growing army was Morgana. She looked different. Her face had aged, no longer 60. Now she looked ancient, withered. The failed harvest of Alara's blood had cost her. But her eyes, still black from edge to edge, still burning with 800 years of fury. She raised her staff. The bone army turned as one toward the castle. So it begins, Dorian said. He turned to Cassandra. Evacuate the civilians to the lowest levels. Seal them in. Whatever happens up here, they survive. Sire, that's an order, Captain. Cassandra saluted. Ran. Dorian looked at Kale. Brother, I need you to... Fight with you, Kale interrupted. I know. I'm ready. You're still weak. The curse. I'm ready, Kale said again. Firm, final. Dorian nodded. Then he turned to Alara. You need to run. No, Alara, I'm the keeper, she said. This is my fight too. You're not a warrior. You'll die. Then I'll die standing. She grabbed his hand. You told me I saved you. Let me do it again. The castle shook. Harder. The bone army was moving. Dorian looked at her. At this woman who had been invisible 3 days ago, who now stood before him with blood on her hands and fire in her eyes. He pulled her close, kissed her, hard, desperate, like it might be the last time. When he pulled back, his eyes were red, feral, the monster just beneath the surface. Stay behind me, he growled. Always! They ran, down corridors, through halls, toward the main entrance where the bone army would breach. The doors exploded inward. Splinters of oak flew like shrapnel. Alara dove, covered her head, felt debris tear through her sleeve. Blood, her blood. Dorian was already moving, vampire speed, a blur of black and silver. He hit the first wave of bone warriors like a hurricane. Alara had never seen him truly fight. She'd seen him weak, poisoned, struggling. This was different. This was a king. He moved through enemies like they were standing still. Claws extended, fangs bared, ripping, tearing, destroying, bones shattered under his hands, skulls crushed. He was beautiful and terrible and absolutely lethal. But there were too many. For every warrior he destroyed, 3 more took its place. Kale fought beside him. Not as fast, not as strong, but determined, using a silver sword he'd taken from the armory, fighting for redemption. Cassandra's guards formed a line, shields up, spears out, holding. Then Morgana walked through the shattered door. The air temperature dropped 20 degrees. Breath came out as frost. She looked at Dorian, smiled with too many teeth. Little king, she said, you should have stayed dead. Dorian snarled, lunged. Morgana flicked her wrist. Invisible force caught him midair, slammed him into the wall, stone cracked. He fell, didn't get up immediately. Dorian, Alara screamed. She ran toward him. A bone warrior blocked her path, raised a jagged sword. She ducked, rolled, grabbed a fallen spear, drove it up through the warrior's ribcage. It shattered, collapsed into pieces. She kept running, reached Dorian. He was bleeding, black blood from his mouth. The impact had damaged something internal. Get up, she begged. Please get up. Can't. Too strong. Morgana was walking toward them, slow, savoring. This is how it ends, she said. I take your keeper. I harvest her power, and I rule for another 800 years. No, Alara stood, stepped between Morgana and Dorian. You failed. The harvest didn't work. I rejected you. Then I'll force you. Morgana raised her staff. Green light gathered at the tip. Sick. Corrupted. I'll kill everyone you love. And you'll beg me to take your blood just to make it stop. The green light shot forward. Alara closed her eyes, waited for pain. It didn't come. She opened her eyes. Kale stood in front of her. The green light had hit him in the chest. He gasped, staggered. No, Alara whispered. Kale looked back at her, smiled, sad, accepting. My redemption, he choked. Then he moved, impossibly fast. Using the last of his strength, he closed the distance to Morgana, pulled the silver dagger from his belt, drove it into her back. Morgana shrieked. The sound shattered every window in the hall. The bone army collapsed, just fell apart like puppets with cut strings. Morgana spun, ripped the dagger out. Black blood poured from the wound. She looked at Kyle, fury beyond words. You dare? She raised her hand, spoke words in the old language. Kale's skin turned gray, then white, then crystalline. Stone. He was turning to stone. No, Alara ran, but too slow. Kale's eyes met hers. Still alive inside the stone, still aware. Then the transformation completed. He froze. A statue. Trapped. Morgana laughed. Bleeding. Dying. But laughing. Now you understand, she said. I take everything. Dorian roared. The sound was not human, not vampire. Something primal, ancient, pure rage. He stood. Blood still pouring from his mouth. Ribs broken. Lungs collapsed. Didn't matter. He moved like death incarnate. Morgana tried to cast again. Too slow. Dorian was on her, his hand closed around her throat, lifted her off the ground. You took my brother, he snarled. You poisoned me. You murdered innocents. I am eternal, Morgana choked. You cannot kill. Dorian's other hand punched through her chest. Alara watched, frozen, horrified, unable to look away. He pulled. Morgana's heart came out, black, withered, still beating. Dorian crushed it. It crumbled to ash. Morgana's eyes went wide. Disbelief, then fear, then nothing. She aged, rapidly. 800 years of stolen life catching up in seconds. Her skin turned to parchment, her bones to dust. She fell apart in Dorian's grip, crumbled, blew away like smoke. Gone. Silence. The storm outside stopped. Just stopped. Sun broke through clouds for the first time in 3 days. Dorian collapsed, fell to his knees. Alara ran to him, caught him. I killed her, he whispered. I killed her. You saved us. He looked at Cahiel's statue, grief raw on his face. Not everyone. Alara looked at the stone figure, at Cahiel frozen mid-step, one hand reaching, like he was trying to grab something. Hope. She stood, walked to the statue, placed her hand on the stone chest, where Cahiel's heart would be. I'm keeper, she whispered. I heal. I purify. I break curses. She cut her palm, blood-welled. She pressed it against the stone. Come back, she commanded. Golden light, starting from her hand, spreading across the stone. Cracks appeared, glowing, warm. The stone shattered. Not violently, gently, like ice melting. Cahiel gasped, stumbled, fell. Dorian caught him, pulled him into a crushing embrace. Brother, he choked. You stupid, brave, ridiculous. Cahiel laughed, sobbed, alive. Footsteps. The council entered. Led by Duke Theron. They'd been in the sealed chambers, safe. They stopped, took in the scene. Morgana's ashes scattered across the floor. The destroyed bone army, Dorian bleeding and broken. Cahiel alive, Alara with blood on her hands. Duke Theron approached, slowly. Then he knelt. Keeper, he said, forgive us. We doubted. We questioned. We were fools. One by one, the council knelt, even the ones who had demanded proof, even the ones who had sided with Cahiel's coup before knowing the truth. All of them, kneeling before a waitress. You saved the prince, Theron continued, the man who tried to kill the king. You could have let him die. You chose mercy. I chose what was right, Alara said quietly. That is why you are keeper, Cassandra said. She knelt too. And why we are honored to serve. Alara looked at Dorian. He was watching her, pride and love and exhaustion in his eyes. What happens now, she asked. Now, he said, standing with effort, we rebuild. The throne room looked different in daylight. The windows had been replaced, clear glass instead of stained, letting in sun, filtered through enchantments that protected vampire skin but allowed warmth. A compromise, like everything else these days. Alara stood at the back of the room, watching, always watching. The trial of Duchess Seraphine Ashford was in its final hour. Seraphine knelt in the center of the room, chains on her wrists, her beautiful silk gowns replaced with rough prison gray, her hair unwashed, face bare. She looked small, human. Dorian sat on the throne, not the iron monstrosity from before. A new throne, wood and stone, accessible. He'd had the old one melted down, used the metal to repair the greenhouses. Duchess Seraphine Ashford, he said, you have been found guilty of conspiracy, treason, and accessory to attempted regicide. Do you have anything to say? Seraphine lifted her head, defiant even now. I did what any woman would do for love and power. You did what a coward does, Cahiel said. He stood beside the throne, acting as royal ambassador now, working to repair relations with human territories. His redemption was not public knowledge. Not yet. But his dedication was. I loved you, Seraphine spat at him. You loved the idea of being queen, Cahiel corrected. You used me, manipulated me, and when Morgana offered you power, You took it without hesitation. Morgana promised. Morgana is dead, Dorian interrupted. Burned to ash, and you will face justice for your choices. You'll kill me, Seraphine's voice shook. Like you killed her. No, Dorian stood, walked down the dais steps, stopped in front of her. I won't kill you. Death is too easy. Too quick. He gestured. Guards pulled Seraphine to her feet. You called Alara Thornwood furniture. Invisible. Worthless. You kicked her. Humiliated her. Treated her like she was nothing. Seraphine's eyes widened, understanding dawning. You will spend the next 20 years in the lowest levels of this castle. Scrubbing floors, washing dishes, serving food to people who will look through you like you're invisible. You will be the waitress, the servant, the nothing. No, Seraphine whispered, and please, I'm nobility. You're a prisoner, Dorian said, and every day you'll remember. The woman you kicked is now the woman who showed you mercy by letting you live. Guards dragged her away. She screamed, begged, promised wealth, revenge, anything. The doors closed. Silence. Alara felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger. Just tired. The castle had changed. Slowly, carefully. Windows everywhere. Light flooding in. The old darkness banished. A new council. Half vampire, half human. Working together. Laws rewritten. Protections established. Schools opened. Kachel had gone to the human territories. Sent letters back. Progress reports. Apologies delivered. Reparations made. Cassandra trained a new guard. Mixed units. Vampire and human fighting side by side. Duke Theron managed the treasury. Every coin accounted for. No more embezzlement. And Alara, she worked in the archives. Documenting. Teaching. Making sure the truth was never buried again. But today was different. Today was the official unveiling. The Memorial Hall of Keepers. 47 statues, each one representing a murdered keeper. Each one carved with their name, their story, their sacrifice. And in the center, larger than the rest, 2 statues. Queen Moira, hand extended, offering help. And beside her, Professor Marcus Thornwood, hand extended too, teaching. The hall was packed. Vampires, humans, children, elders. Dorian stood at the front, Alara beside him. He spoke. For 800 years, we lived a lie. We thought strength meant power. We thought survival meant sacrifice. We were wrong. He looked at the statues. These keepers were murdered because someone feared what they represented: hope, healing, change. But you cannot kill an idea. You cannot bury the truth forever. He turned to Alara. This woman showed us that. She was invisible, ignored, dismissed. But when the moment came, she spoke. She acted. She refused to let injustice stand. He took her hand. Today we honor those who were lost. Tomorrow we build a future where no one is invisible, where power means protection, where strength means standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves. The crowd was silent, listening, learning. Alara stepped forward, her voice carrying. My father used to say, when you see injustice, speak, even if your voice shakes. She looked at the statue of her father. My voice shook. It still shakes sometimes. But I spoke, and it changed everything. She turned to the crowd, to the young faces watching, human and vampire alike. You all have a voice. Use it. Don't wait for someone else to speak truth. Don't wait for permission to do what's right. She smiled, small, real. They told me I was nothing, furniture, invisible. But I wasn't broken. I was watching, learning, waiting. And when the moment came, I chose to be seen. The crowd began to clap, slow at first, then building. Dorian raised his hand. The applause quieted. Before we leave, he said, there is one more thing. He turned to Alara, took both her hands. Alara Thornwood, 3 days ago felt like 3 lifetimes. You stood in a cathedral and screamed truth when everyone else was silent. You gave your blood when I was dying. You walked into fire to prove what you are. He knelt, right there in the memorial hall, in front of everyone. The crowd gasped. You are the lighthouse that guided me back from the void. You are the voice that spoke when silence would have been safer. You are the woman who chose mercy when vengeance would have been easier. He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, obsidian and silver. I don't want you as my queen. I want you as my equal, my partner. The woman who will stand beside me and tell me when I'm wrong. Who will fight for what's right even when it terrifies her. Alara's hands shook. Tears fell. I'm still terrified, she whispered. I know. So am I. He smiled. But I'm less afraid when you're with me. Alara Thornwood, will you marry me? She looked at the ring, at him, at her father's statue behind them. Her father would have liked Dorian, would have approved. Yes, she said. He slid the ring onto her finger, stood, kissed her. The hall erupted, not just polite applause, cheers, genuine, joyful. Servants hugged each other. Guards wiped eyes. Even a few nobles smiled. For the first time in 5 years, Alara felt truly seen, not as furniture, not as invisible, not even as keeper, as herself, as Alara. That night, she stood on the balcony of their chambers, looking out over the kingdom. Dorian joined her, wrapped his arms around her waist. What do you see, he asked. It was their ritual now. Every evening, the same question. Alara looked at the lights spreading across the valley. Villages, towns, life. I see a future where my father's death meant something, she said. Where the keepers who died are remembered. Where no one has to be invisible to survive. What else? She turned in his arms, looked up at him. I see us, building something better. He kissed her forehead. How long do you think we have before the next crisis? The next threat? Does it matter? No. He smiled. As long as you're here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. They stood in silence, watching their kingdom. Somewhere in the castle, Seraphine scrubbed floors, learning what invisible felt like. Somewhere in the human territories, KL was building bridges, earning redemption one apology at a time. Somewhere in the memorial hall, 47 statues stood silent, witnesses to truth, guardians of memory. And in the archives, Alara's father's journal sat open. The last page visible. Remember, my brilliant girl, you are not invisible. You are the light others refuse to see. Make them look, make them see, change the world. She had, and she wasn't done. The story was just beginning.